Good morning to all of you. Some more students are to join. Let them join soon. Today I am presenting the PPT from my laptop and addressing you from my mobile because more clarity is there with the mobile. Moreover, I want to see the chat box and presence along with the PPT. That's why I'm joining from mobile. I won't be coming on the video because my health is not that good. Yesterday I had the second vaccine of COVID, and so a slight fever is there. So I thought video appearance I am just avoiding. I'll be on the audio. So this is our only half the number of students have joined. Anyway, we are proceeding with. This is our fifth module. First chapter is anthropogenic disasters, water pollution, and atmospheric pollution. And sixth chapter is again anthropogenic pollution. That will be on the other types of pollutions. We will be discussing that next after this chapter is over. So this chapter is on, it's a continuation of what we have discussed in the, hope you are hearing me properly. Am I right? You can hear me well, no? Yes or no? Somebody can just say whether you can hear me properly. So
Yes,
somebody
sir.
has put in the chat box, yes. Okay. So I'm proceeding with. So first part of this chapter is on anthropogenic disasters, water pollution, and atmospheric pollution. In the first two modules, we have discussed something about water pollution. But as you know, it was only a very brief discussion. But this chapter is on a detailed description. 7 hours are allotted for water pollution and air pollution and other atmospheric pollution. So we'll discuss in detail. And you know that our classes have been extended up to 24th because no examination date has come up so far. Examination date, the university is yet to confirm. About that, I have, as JC has mentioned, a combined meeting of the parents and students of the 8th semester is arranged on 17th evening. 17th is, I think, Thursday. On Thursday evening, next Thursday evening at 6 o'clock, a combined meeting of the students and parents of 8th semester, all branches is arranged, where we'll discuss about the examination, its prospects, about the placement, all those things we'll be discussing there. And right now, let us proceed with this water pollution. What is a water pollutant? Any substance that decreases the quality of water. Any substance. So, can somebody name some subject, some substance which will reduce the quality of water? You are all drinking water. How much water you have to drink a day? Any idea? A grown-up person like you're all, I think, above 20. A grown-up person like you should take how much water a day? Anybody? I'm seeing the chat box you can put there. No need to even switch on the. My voice level may be a light low today because of the fever. Doesn't matter, but since I'm keeping the microphone close to me, you can hear well. Okay, so tell me how much liters of water you have to. Kirtana has written. No. Kirtana has written 8 glasses of water. Kirtana, the difficulty is the glass in your home will be different from the glass in my home. So glass is not a measure actually. It's only a vessel or a utensil. But Amita has written 2 liter. Revati has written 2 liter. Slightly less than. Okay, Akshay has written the name of a pollutant. Algae. Yes, algae is a pollutant. Algae, especially the green algae. You know, if you go to big ponds and all, you'll see the water in that pond is a green color. It's not natural color. It is because of the green algae which is over there. Algae will be in different colors. I think, I don't know whether I have told that story to you some 20 years back. There was red colored rain in Kerala at different places, including Palakkad. So some of the believers were saying that it is the wrath of the God. The God is angry with us, so he is pouring blood as rain. There are so many discussions in the media. Myself and my wife collected the samples of this red rain and we keenly observed it. So we found that there is some turbidity in it. So we referred the literature, journals available, and we found that in different parts of the world, years before, there were some red rains, and that was caused by red algae and red lichens. These algae and lichens will be formed in the air, in the atmosphere, by a phenomenon called eutrophication. Eutrophication I discussed in some of the last classes. Eutrophication means the presence of excess nitrogen will make algae and lichen grow in the humid air. The water vapor is there in the air, and the seeds of algae or lichens are there. That will grow there. That will come along with the rain, and that is a red rain. So we published in the media that a red rain is not any God's wrath. It is only because red algae and red lichens, any one of this may be present in the water, and this has occurred earlier also in the world, very long back. Recently, there was no report. And we gave in the news media. Immediately, the Cochin University and MG University took up some research work on that. We only gave the idea. We didn't do any research. But last year, I found in the newspapers, after so many years, they have confirmed that the rains were used, that red rains were due to the presence of red lichens and algae in the water. So it was true. It's why I'm saying is many times the rain color can be red or green or blue based on the presence of algae or lichens or microorganisms present in that water. It is possible. They are all actually pollutants in water. Normally, rainwater is the purest form of water, not the first rain. First rain is not pure water. You know what is the reason? First one or two rains, you should not get exposed to it. Especially when the first rain is coming, don't stand in it. People have got a enjoyment. I also used to have that in the young days, to play in the rain, to run around in the rain. But first rain you should avoid. If possible, the second rain also. Third rain always there is no harm in bathing in the rain or moving around the rain. First rain I am saying to avoid. Why? Can anybody tell me the reason why you should avoid the first rain? I forgot one thing about the quantity of water required. A grown-up individual should take around 3 liters of water per day so that your body is intact. 2 liters is a bit less, but many of the food items you eat will have water content. That means water separately 2 liters may be enough, but the total water required by the body in a day is around 3 liters. Okay. Now, why we advise not to stand in the first train? Can anybody of you tell what is the difficulty in the first train? People advise that don't stand in the first train. Scientists especially. Any reason? Anybody can tell me what is the reason? You should not get exposed to the first rain. In a season, the first rain will be, for example, after a long gap. We had the first rain in April, I think. March we had. So the first summer rain, never get out. Stay inside. Reason for that? Anybody? Anandu, can you tell me the reason? Can you tell me the reason, Anandu? Anandu has put something. Don't know. Very simple. Somebody else who knows it? Why we should not go out in the first rain? Because it's a practical knowledge. You have a lot of life to live. I'm telling you, don't go out in the first train, especially in a place like England or the central USA. If you are going out in the first train, it will be very dangerous. It will be catastrophic. In India, in Kerala, it is not that dangerous. I'll tell the reason also. Yes, Revati is saying presence of pollutants. Revati is partly correct because so many acid fumes will be there in the atmosphere. All the industries are letting out acids. Carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide make carbonic acid. Sulfur dioxide makes sulfurous and sulfuric acid. Nitrogen dioxide or nitrous oxide makes nitrous acid and nitric acid. All these acids will be present in the atmosphere in vapor form. When the first rain takes place, all these vapors do condense and join the raindrops. So they will come down as rain. That is called acid rain. Acid rain is very dangerous. For example, in a very industrialized place, where huge lot of industries are there, if the first rain will be almost concentrated acid. If you stand in the first rain, your clothes will have holes, and sometimes your skin also will have holes. Very dangerous. So we say don't go out in the first rain. But after one or two rains are over, these acids get very much diluted. Thereafter, the rains will not have much acid. Kerala, what is the advantages? Kerala, the atmosphere is highly humid. Humid means the vapor is very high in the atmosphere. Water content is very high in the atmosphere. Since the water content is very high in the atmosphere, it doesn't permit the acid to concentrate. The acid will be still dilute in the atmosphere, not concentrated. Whereas in the cold countries, the acid will be cold countries, the humidity, water content in the atmosphere will be very less. So the acid content will be very concentrated. So there, for example, if in US or in England, if you stand in an industrialized city in the first rain, every chance that your skin and your flesh will be having wounds because of the acid. So that doesn't happen. So that is why we say that. So in Kerala, even the first rain is not that dangerous, but the first rain can cause discoloration on your skin or your cloth. So it's not advisable. Though the acid is dilute, even dilute acid can, maybe it will not penetrate your skin, but it can cause discoloration on your skin or your clothes. So don't go out in the first rain. So you understood a practical thing. First rain is a bit dangerous, especially in cold countries. Okay. So now let us see what is a pollutant. A pollutant, that screen shows you correctly. A pollutant is any substance that decreases the quality of water. What do you mean by the quality of water? At the end of the session, we will see what is meant by quality of water. There are some standards for water, for drinking water, for construction water, for agriculture water. There are different standards. For drinking water, there is WHO standard, there is AIPH standard, there is Indian standard, IS. Indian standards also will be there. So these things I will discuss when we come to the end of this chapter. So the water is polluted, its quality will go down. And pollution may be two types, maybe chemical pollution or physical pollution. There is one more thing which is called biological pollution, that is called contamination. Contamination is the term used for biological pollution. Pollution is the general term. Pollution may be physical pollution or chemical pollution. Presence of acid may be chemical pollution. Temperature in water may be physical pollution. Temperature is not chemical. So, for example, if you go near a thermal power plant, the hot water from the thermal power plant will be let out into the river or sea or backwater. Say we have got a thermal power plant in Kerala. A big thermal power plant is there in Kerala. Where it is? Anybody knows? Where is the thermal power plant in Kerala? Just put in the chat box. I have gone there many times. Actually, initial period when that plant came into existence, there were a lot of local inhabitants who were affected and they had to be rehabilitated. So they had to be trained and given some jobs. So I had to go there quite often to train these locals as well as the engineers of that thermal power plant. Anybody knows where it is? Any idea? It is around 6 kilometers away from my native home. Very near to my uncle's house. Anybody knows that place? The biggest thermal power plant in Kerala. Small plants are there at other places also. The biggest one in Kerala, the thermal power plant is? Yes. No idea. Your general knowledge is very poor. It is at Kayamkulam, in a place called Nangyar Kulangara, west of Karthiyapalli, actually it is. So, from a place called Mudugulam to Haripad, there is a bus route. And then west of Nangyar Kulangara, it is there. It is on the backwaters, and it is on an island in the backwater. Backwater is Kayamkulam Kayal. That is a place. That is the biggest thermal power plant in Kerala by NTPC. NTPC thermal power plant is using different fuels. Sometimes it uses coal, enriched coal. Sometimes it uses furnace oil. It's in a multi-fuel plant. I've gone inside the plant also. Many of our students from NSS College of Engineering are engineers there. Even the former chief engineer was also one of our students. So it's a very big plant. If you get some time, you can just go over there and see how a thermal power plant is working, because it has got a lot of automation. So it is good for the electronics people and computer science people to see a thermal power plant. Maybe once the COVID is over, if you get a chance, it is advisable to see a thermal power plant. It's not dangerous like the atomic power plant. Atomic power plant, very rarely they permit visit. The nearest atomic power plant is at Kudamkulam, near Nagarkoil. Next one is at Kalpakam, near Chennai. Thermal power plant, the biggest in South India, is at Ramagundam in Andhra Pradesh. But this one at Kayamkulam is also not small, it is comparatively big. Okay, so I have told you about the physical pollution, chemical pollution, and biological pollution. Biological pollution is also called contamination. Contamination, CONTAMINATION. This word contamination people use very commonly for pollution, but that is not true. Contamination is only biological pollution. If pathogens are present, if disease-causing pathogens are present, we can say it is contamination. Okay. The funniest thing is we have got a lot of water. I don't know whether you remember the English verse by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He has written a poem by name The Mariner's Rhyme. Mariner's Rhyme. In that, there is a very famous verse in English which says, "Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. Water, water everywhere, and all the crops did shrink." That's about the Ulysses journey in the sea. There is so much of water in the sea, people cannot drink the water in sea because seawater is having almost 3% of salinity, salt. And if you drink saline water, you will again feel like drinking water and thirsty. That is the difficulty with saline water, because to remove the salinity from your body, the body again needs water. So if you drink the seawater, you will again become thirsty. Your thirst will not go. And if you continuously drink the seawater, you may get dizzy, you may faint, and you may die. That is what Coleridge has written in his poem. And the crops did shrink. Corpse means CORPS. Corpse means the navy men. The navy men. Water, water everywhere, and all the corpse did shrink. Shrink means reduce in number. Corpse did shrink means all the mariners, the navy men in that ship died one by one because there is no pure water to drink, only salt water. So if at all you go in sea, by chance some of you may become mariners. After BTech in electronics and computer science, you can become naval engineers or merchant navy engineers. Many have become also. If you go like that, mechanical they prefer most, but one or two they will take from computer science and electronics also, because ships are highly electronics nowadays. And if at all you happen to be in sea, never drink seawater. Instead of quenching your thirst, it will ultimately kill you. Because if you take 1 liter of seawater, you will need another 10 liter of pure water to reduce its effect. That should not happen. So the pure water available on Earth is very less. 97% of the water available on Earth is salt water. Out of that, so remaining only 3% is fresh water. Out of that 3%, only 4% is accessible water. Out of the fresh water, 96% of the fresh water are in the form of ice in the mountains like Himalayas or Arctic or Atlantic or some places like that, or the Alps or whatever it is, and only 4% is accessible for drinking purpose. See, so totally, if you take the entire water on Earth, 4% of the 3%, that is only 0.12% of the entire water on Earth is accessible to human beings and animals for drinking water. That's a very tragedy on this earth. And that is why water scarcity is felt everywhere. So the usable fresh water is very, very less. And in many of the places, this especially in African countries and all, people are drinking contaminated and polluted water. The simplest pollution is what is called turbidity. 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 Can anybody tell me what is turbidity? It's the simplest form of pollution in any water. In Malampida water also, sometimes we see that turbidity occurs. The water we say turbid. What do you mean by turbidity? Anybody? What do you understand by turbidity? What is the meaning of turbidity? Anyone? Or should I call the name? Anupama, can you tell me what is meant by turbidity? What do you understand by turbidity of water? Turbidity, turbidity. Rifas has put in correctly, though in a very awkward language. Kalangi Marnya, yes, Rifas is right. Kalangi Marnya water means it will be mixed up with solid particles. No, water is flowing in soil, in river or wherever it is, or even in a pond or well, it is in contact with solid particles. So solid and water get mixed up, and turbidity is the presence of solids in water. Turbidity. So turbid water means what Rifas has told us, right? Kalangi Marnya Vellam. That is one of the most deterrent water. You see in this photograph a boy drinking water. Looks like an African boy. I've taken it from the internet. See, a boy is drinking water. That water is highly turbid. You can see from the water. When the water is turbid, it will have an awkward color. Pure water is transparent. You can see through it. It is transparent. But this water is reflecting and colored. You see? So mostly turbidity is indicated by color. Color is also objectionable in drinking water. Now, what are the common pollutants in water? Water, we get from the ground or we get from the atmosphere. Of course, if we can collect the rainwater, that is almost the purest form of water. I told that except the first rain, the remaining rains will be almost pure water. We used to say very few water is available which the frogs have not urinated. Without the frog's urine, you get very less water. One is the rainwater, and the other is the water inside the fruits, like coconut water. Coconut water is very pure water, but coconut water is highly alkaline. So many chemicals will be there, but alkaline is good for health. Why? Because the body prefers alkaline pH. You know that pH from 0 to 7 is acidic. pH from 7 to 14 is alkaline. So the body pH is preferably between 6.5 to 8.5, and body prefers pH between 7 and 8.5, slightly alkaline. So that is why the coconut water is good for health, because it is slightly alkaline. I think once I have told you, Coca-Cola and such things are very dangerous to the intestine because it is highly acidic. Coca-Cola has got a pH range of 3 to 3.5, which is strong acid. And strong acid will interfere with your body hormones and body excretions and may upset your stomach. That is why we advise don't take acidic drinks like Coca-Cola or Pepsi Cola or anything like that. But fruit juices in general. Fruit juices means original juices in general are between 7 to 8 pH. Coconut water is also between 7 to 8 pH. So these things are good for health because body always prefers, and the alkaline character of the body is lost, you will have illness called acidity. If the body becomes acidic, then you will have acidity problems and gas trouble. Gas trouble is a byproduct of acidity. So that you can avoid by taking fruit juices, taking tender coconut, and such things. Okay. Even buttermilk. Buttermilk എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ മോര്. Even buttermilk is slightly alkaline only. Okay. Though it is in lactic acid, the lactic acid in very weak form is there in buttermilk. The acid in milk is lactic acid. But remember, milk is an alkaline thing, not acidic. That is why some of the acids, though we call them acid, for example, the citric acid. Citric acid means lemon. Lemon juice, if it sits for a bit time, it will become alkaline. Though it is acid, that is advantage with fruit juices. Soon they will become alkaline in nature. Okay. Now, what pollutes the water? The water is polluted by acid mine drainage. Acid mine drainage means many areas acid mines will be there or acid factories will be there. In India, mostly acids are taken from factories, but many of the Western countries, acids are even mined. So many acids are available in solid form that can be mined. And agriculture, especially when the agriculture field, so many pesticides and fertilizers will be applied. And always remember, most of the pesticides are poisonous. Take, for example, DDT. What is DDT? What is DDT? Anybody? You have studied in your school chemistry? What is DDT? DDT is a very high pollutant in earth water. Chelsea, can you tell me what is DDT? Chelsea, you have studied DDT in your school days. DDT is a systemic poison. Systemic poison means if it gets into your body system, it will never go out. It will remain there. That is why we say if DDT is there in a mother's body, that DDT will be transferred even to the kids through milk. DDT is such a poison. And it can even cause mutation in the genes. That is why if DDT content is very high in your body, sometimes the next generation can become, a sort of imbeciles, means without proper wisdom or proper intelligence. That is possible. So DDT is a systemic poison. Many systemic poisons are there. DDT is even endosulfan, which is very common in North Kerala, Kasaragod area. Endosulfan has been used in the rubber cultivations. Even endosulfan is a systemic poison. So anybody knows what is DDT? Chelsea, no answer. Who else can tell me? Somebody has put there. Chelsea put only yes, sir, but no answer. Anybody who can tell me what is DDT? Because DDT you have studied in your school chemistry. That's what I am asking. No one? Someone may be trying to Google it. Anyway, no need to Google it. DDT is a very popular poison. Dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane. Dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane. DDT. Okay, it's a very strong poison. It is used as a pesticide now DDT is banned in many countries. More than 90 countries have banned DDT because DDT has been seen in the body of so many human beings. So DDT stays in the body. That is why DDT is banned in many of the countries now. India, it is not yet banned, I think. We are still using DDT. We use so many other pesticides also. The water coming from agricultural lands may be highly poisonous. So if you are taking water from a well or a pond very close to agricultural land. In my young days, we were taking water from pond. Then wells were not common. We had an exclusive exclusive pond for taking water. Later, when I have a bit grown up, people started digging wells covered by rings, either brick rings or masonry rings or RCC rings. Nowadays, people take not even from wells; they take even from municipal water supply or panchayat water supply. Even panchayat water supply is also having some chlorine content as a disinfectant. And chlorine is poisonous. Though it's a disinfectant, why it is disinfecting? Because it can kill the microorganisms in the water. That is why it is called a disinfectant. So even the municipal water which you get, it is supposed to have, say for example, in my house, I have got both Malambida water as well as my well water. Well water will not have chlorine, but well water will have biological organisms naturally. Because in Kerala, there is no water, no groundwater without E. coli. That is a study conducted by the State Pollution Control Board. E. coli stands for Escherichia coli. Escherichia coli means the microorganisms, the bacterial colony which is found in the human fecus. Human excreta is having bacteria that is called Escherichia coli. That is there in the drinking water everywhere in Kerala. That is a study conducted by, so long back, there was an agitation at Guruvayur. So it was a people's agitation. So they approached me to test the water in Guruvayur temple. So I went there and I found that the E. coli index there was more than 300. E. coli permitted in water is almost nil, but maximum up to 2 or 3 we can permit. But this was more than 300. So when I gave the report, again there was one more agitation saying that the water in the pond is very, very polluted. E. coli, it is coming from human excreta. It can travel through the earth also. One of my former friends, is at Dr. Nambiar from Thrissur. He has proved that E. coli can travel in the earth around 90 meters. That means if you have got a septic tank in the next house within 90 meters of your open well, the E. coli can travel from that septic tank to your well very well. That is why everywhere it is. I know that in my house itself, my open well and septic tank, the distance between them is only 15 meters, not even 20 meters. So it is less than around 15 meters. So that means definitely the leaching from the septic tank will have E. coli. Septic tank will always have E. coli that can travel to my open well water very easily. Why should we think of another person's well? In my own house, it is happening. So when we take the open well water from my well, it will have bacteriological contaminants. Whereas if you take the municipal water supply or a panchayat water supply coming from Malambura treatment plant, it will have chemical contaminants like chlorine may be there. But of course, we have got tolerance limit to everything. And of course, why the spreading of corona has been less in India, a Govan doctor has come up with a theory that dirtiness dividend. Dirtiness dividend means daily basis Indians are exposed to dirtiness. Only very few of you, maybe only around 10% of the Indian population is having a hygienic environment. 90% of our population, even well-to-do people, do live in a dirty condition so that we have withstanding capacity to dirtiness. That is why the COVID has been slow in growing in India. That was the theory when the first strain of births came. But now in the second strain, India has been devastated by COVID. Maybe the second strain has learned how to manage that dirtiness also. That is what I feel. Because it's a biological change. Any organism will undergo genetical change based on the environment. So when the COVID virus came to India, first it failed. Because it found that the Indians are already having dirtiness. Overtaking is difficult. But when the second wave came, we were the worst affected country because the second wave COVID strains are capable of overtaking our resistance. Okay. Today I was talking in the morning to the principal of Sri Krishnamurti Engineering College. I've invited him for a function in our college. He'll be attending. And he was saying that he has taken both the vaccines before April. And this month, the month of May, he got COVID attack after both the vaccinations. See, so COVID virus can overtake even. But only thing is, since both vaccines have been taken, the resistance was high, so the COVID didn't become that acute. Why I'm saying is that dirtiness also has got a dividend for human beings to withstand. That is why people who live in worse conditions have got better resistance to many of the illness. Of course, that doesn't mean that you have to stay in worse conditions. It's a natural resistance which you develop. Another thing which makes the water polluted is sewage. SCWAG is sewage. We can see on the slide sewage. Sewage is nothing but the wastewater coming from homes and industries. So coming from home, from the toilets, from the water closets, that is called domestic sewage. Coming from the industry is called industrial sewage. And the water coming out of your wash basin is not called sewage. Wash basin wastewater is a bit more better. It is not that much polluted. It is called sullage, SULLAGE. Another thing which makes the water polluted is what is called the sediments. Sediments means solid particles which get into the water. Maybe sand dust, maybe quarry dust, maybe broken organic particles. These things which float in the water and settle down gradually are called sediments. Okay, so sediments are basically minute particles present in the water. Then heat is another pollutant. Heat will come especially in thermal power plants, or heat also may come from the kitchen. Hot water may come. These are all, that is also a physical pollutant. Another thing is heavy metals. Heavy metals coming to water is very dangerous because many of the heavy metals are highly poisonous. Metals like mercury is one of the most poisonous. Mercury, cadmium, chromium, nickel, these are all very poisonous. That is why many of the electronic components you use, many of the electronic components you will have soldering. Many of the soldering will have compounds or elements like cadmium, nickel, etc. They are very poisonous. So whenever you are doing some soldering work, please clean your hands afterwards because your hands may have poisonous materials inside. And cadmium and all but immediately you will not know it. These poisons get into your body, accumulate into your body, and when it exceeds a particular limit, that limit is called tolerance limit. When it exceeds that limit, that is going to affect your body. So all the heavy metals mostly. And of course, I told mercury is so poisonous, it can easily kill a tree. To kill a tree, you need around 2 to 3,000 times the poison required for killing an individual. But you can even kill a tree with one small, with a half cc mercury, we can kill a tree. Then oil and gasoline are another pollutant. Oil comes mostly through transport in the land. All the transport vehicles are nowadays using oil, either in liquid form or in gas form. And now you know many of the vehicles are using CNG. And of course, LPG also we are using for our kitchen purpose. LPG is used for cooking purpose. CNG is used for, LPG stands for, what is the full form of LPG? Anybody? LPG. What is the full form of LPG? You are all using LPG in your kitchen. What is the full form of LPG? Anybody?
Liquefied petroleum gas.
Yes. Who has told it? I'm not seeing the name here. Liquefied petroleum gas. Who told it?
Megha.
Megha is right. Now so many people have written it also. Samina, Kirtana, Anupama, Revadi all have written liquefied petroleum gas. So it is actually broken and liquefied. Petroleum gas, what you get from the nature is called natural gas. But petroleum gas is after breaking the petroleum products, you liquefy it. So inside your cylinder, inside the gas cylinder in your kitchen, it is liquid, not gas. Only if there is some empty portion available on top, it will be in gaseous form there. So in the cylinder which is brought full to your home, it is in liquid form. But whenever it gets a chance, it expands. It expands to so high, the quantum of expansion is expressed by Avogadro number. Have you heard it? So for example, if one cylinder LPG is becoming gas, it can fill the entire asset campus building. Can you imagine? One cylinder of gas is enough to fill the entire asset building. That much will be the gaseous expansion. And if one cylinder is enough to burn the entire area also. That is why we say, whenever the gas is leaking, open all your windows so that it will escape. If it is staying back in your house, it is very dangerous. A spark can ignite it. Similarly, for vehicles, we are using what is called LNG and CNG. And normally in India, it is CNG. CNG stands for compressed natural gas. It is still gas. LNG stands for liquefied natural gas, LNG. So both these are used for vehicles. LNG is transported by, the GAIL pipeline in Kerala. GAIL pipeline is transporting LNG through pipe because it is in liquid form. The transportation is easy. Only thing is it is under high pressure. So the LNG pipelines are pressure lines. Then the next thing is leachate from landfill. What pollutes the water is leachate. Leachate means അഴുകിയ വെള്ളം, അഴുകിയത്, something leaching. Leaching means, if you throw away some organic matter, it will get deteriorated in the ground and it becomes, it becomes, disrupted, and the disintegration will happen in that, and that will ultimately join the groundwater. That groundwater, this will happen especially in areas where the solid waste is dumped. Wherever the solid waste is collectively dumped, that area, when the first rain comes, the entire solid waste will give out its organic content in the water. And that water is having a lot of contaminated water, and that is called the leachate. So, leachate means അഴുകിയ വെള്ളം. And leachate comes from landfills. Landfill means an area where you are dumping waste. That dumping waste is called landfill. Okay, landfilling. Landfilling is done, it's called landfill. But there are some areas where landfill is done and the area is recovered. Say, for example, in Bombay, there is an area called reclamation area, very close to Churchgate. That entire area has been taken back from the sea by filling materials. That is why it is called reclamation area. Reclamation means reclaiming from the sea. So by filling soil in the land, in the sea, you make it filled area. I still remember when I was a small child, my grandfather filled so much of backwater. At that time, the government gave permission to fill backwater. So in the Kayangulam Kayal, some 3-4 acres of land he acquired by paying some small amount to the government and filled that land and made it a filled up land. Nowadays, it's banned. Nowadays, reclamation is not permitted anywhere in Kerala. So it can happen. So now these are the methods by which the pollutants are coming to water. Water gets polluted. And based on the types of pollutants, we say there are two types: point source and non-point source. Point source means the pollutant is coming at a point. Non-point source means it is coming in a large area. Say, for example, you are having a waste pipe. You see that picture which I have shown in the PPT left side. Left side, a waste pipe is coming from an industry. It is discharging its waste. It is discharging its waste at a single point. Then we say it is a point source. The source of the waste is only a point. A non-point source means there is a vast agriculture area. From the entire agriculture area, the water is getting into the stream. Into the river, the water is coming from a large area. Then we will say it is a non-point source because the source is not a single point, it's a non-point source. Okay, so there are two types of pollutants based on class of pollutant: the point source and non-point source. Then another pollutant which is major in water is the raw sewage. I know what is sewage. Sewage means the solid waste which is coming as a pollutant. For example, the waste coming from industry, solid waste. Waste will be organic. The waste coming from a toilet, the human fecus coming from the closets, it's a sewage. So these things are what is called sewage. Industry can discharge sewage. So sewage is basically, and all this sewage, whether it is domestic sewage or industrial sewage, these sewages will be basically having so many pathogens, disease-causing organisms. Pathogen, you can see the right side of the slide. Pathogens are very common. Pathogens means disease-causing organisms, such as virus, bacteria, etc. COVID virus is not waterborne, but many diseases, for example, diarrhea, many of the bacteria which are dysentery, diarrhea, all these things, even sort of influenza, these all come from waterborne diseases when the pathogens are coming from. In addition to that, they'll be having so many nutrients such as nitrates, phosphate, fats, oils, and grease, which will pollute the water. Nutrient is good for the plant, but for the water, for drinking purpose, it is a miscreant. It's not good for human body to take water with all these nutrients. So the water should be having only, say for example, chloride is a good nutrient, but the chloride in the water is more than 250 or 300 milligram per liter. It is objectionable for drinking purpose. We will see that later. So sewage pollution, and many times this, as I told, E. coli. E. coli is nothing but fecal coliform bacteria. Fecal means coming from the human fecus. So these are all things which are not, that is what is called raw sewage. Similarly from industries also, a lot of sewage will be disposed. They'll be having, say for example, a tanning industries there. So many iron compounds will come up. If you are having a textile industry, so many dyeing agents, coloring agents will come out of it. And textile industry is very horrible in that way. The water coming out of a textile mill will be so heavily colored, will be dark colored, blue colored, red colored, like that. You cannot, it is chemically poisonous, and it is having objectionable odor and color. So these things, if it is directly left into a water body, that will pollute the water. Now, what are the health consequences of this poisoning? Water, if you take polluted water, I think I have mentioned to you once long back, I have got a particular sensitivity. If I drink polluted water, my throat will immediately identify it. I'll have an irritation. For many people, that will not be there. After they take polluted water, after half an hour or 1 hour, they get indigestion, dysentery, and all such things, or temperature, fever, like that they can get. Many of the diseases like hepatitis A, typhoid, diarrhea, intestinal distress, vomiting, cramps, ear infection, etc., are mostly caused by this polluted water. So, can we drink polluted water? No. But luckily or unluckily, many of the Indians do have resistance to many of these organisms by getting used to it right from the childhood. If you are already taking polluted water in the childhood, maybe you will develop a resistance to these living organisms. But Kerala, it's not there. Keralites are one of the most white lagoons in nature, because we are always, right from our childhood, most of us are taking only, boiled water. Boiled water can kill most of these microorganisms except some virus. Some typical virus cannot be killed easily by boiling. Most of the other organisms can be killed by boiling. So boiling, not even filtering. Filtering is not a good method for purifying water. I know that many people are using water filters at their home. I do appreciate it, because it may remove 90% of the pathogens from water. But 10% is a question there, because most of the water filters available in India are having the filter size 1 micron. 1 micron means 1 by 1000 of a millimeter. But many of the microorganisms are having less size than that. Many of the microorganisms, especially virus, will have less than 1 micron, many of them. So they cannot be filtered out by these filters. So if you are using a filter at home, have a filter with UV rays also, or have a filter with boiling also. Filter cannot remove all the organisms. So whenever some people are coming to sell the Eureka Force filter at my home, I say no, because I don't use filter, because I boil water. And boiling also, once the water is boiled, keep it in hot condition for some 1 hour. Then almost 95-96% of the microorganisms will be dying. So keep in mind, boiling is the best technique for removing as much possible microorganisms. Filtering cannot be as efficient as that. But in offices and all where boiling is not possible, at least filter you can have, so that almost 90% of the microorganisms can be removed. But boiling is the best thing. And it can give to, many of the contaminants can give rise to what is called food poison. Food poison doesn't mean that it's a chemical poison. Food poison can be even biological poison. Food poison, this is a misunderstanding with many people. Food poison means some poison is there in food. No. Even rotten food can cause food poison. Food poison means some unwanted biological things are in the water. It may be bacteria, it may be protozoa, it may be fungus, like that. Even unused bread. If you keep the bread in open air for 3-4 days, bread will develop a fungus, some ash-colored fungus. It is very poisonous fungus. So if at all you are bringing bread home, keep it in the fridge. Normally in the fridge, fungus will not grow. If you keep below 20 degrees centigrade, the fungus around 15 degrees centigrade, you can keep, the fungus will not grow. So if it is normal atmospheric temperature, the fungus and bacteria will grow faster because they are not used to refrigeration. They are used to the normal thing. So many seafoods also can cause you, like mussels, oysters. They have got especially colonies of contaminants inside them. So if you are using some fish, ensure that you are boiling it properly. So I advise that even if you are frying some fish, you boil it first and then fry it so that it is safe from contamination. Many people have got the habit of boiling directly, frying directly in the oil. If so, you have to fry properly. Otherwise, it is better to boil it and then fry it. That will be safer. Okay, because fish is a major. I told that most of the microorganisms are available in the water, not even in land, because they prefer the water environment, and many of them do not require even oxygen. Many of the microorganisms, especially septic microorganisms, do not require oxygen for life. They can live without oxygen. Some of the microorganisms are there which produce oxygen themselves and survive. That is also there in nature. So that is why we say don't use polluted water. This is a health concern also. Then what are the economic indicators, especially the disposal of solid waste is a major concern everywhere, because in earlier days we used to dispose the solid waste in open air. Nowadays it's not possible. We are creating a lot of solid waste. Once I have mentioned to you that I conducted a study in Palakkad municipal area. We found that around 400 grams of solid waste is disposed per capita, per person, into the municipal solid waste system. So what would have been the quantum produced at home? Many would have thrown out. They would have thrown out into the open air. 400 grams comes into the collection system. And these collection system nowadays, so many things coming are packing and packaging materials, because of the online business is flourishing. If you buy 1 kilogram of material, you will have 2 kilograms of waste in it. Now, I am used to buying a lot of online because I just don't want to go to shops and travel. Many things I buy, almost everything I buy online, and it's coming with a lot of packaging. So these packages are solid waste. It accumulates, and if you throw it, I've got a system at home where we have got a facility arranged for burning this solid waste. So we accumulate there and we burn it out. Even burning is not totally advisable, because burning can produce some dangerous gases like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and some toxins. Especially if you are burning plastics, you can produce toxins. Toxins means toxic materials, poisonous materials. Many of the plastics are having different toxins in it. So this is an economic consequence also, because the sewage will have a lot of waste which can accumulate in beaches. It will go into seawater, and I don't know whether I have told you that story. Sometime back, my driver was immediately called from his home saying that the goat in his home, the goat is having some problem, and the goat, they felt was fully pregnant. So he immediately went home and took the goat to the veterinary hospital, and the veterinary surgeon conducted the survey, and instead of getting one or two kids, it was full of plastic waste only. The stomach was entirely full of plastic waste. What to do? They mistook that plastic waste in the stomach to be pregnancy. And of course, after the surgery, everything was removed, and it was brought back. But after a week, it again died, because I think maybe the plastic inside the body would have caused that much harm. That goat died. So this is a living example, or even a dead example of plastic pollution, how it can affect the life of even living organisms or bodies like that. So it has got environmental problems. It has got health problems. It has got economic problems. All these are there. And when unwanted waste is coming into water, it increases the BOD of water. What is BOD? Anybody can tell me what is BOD? Have you heard this word BOD? Yes. Can anybody tell me what is BOD? BOD is a parameter in water which is very important, and it indicates the pollution level of water. Can anybody tell me what is BOD? Kirtana, can you tell me what is BOD? Somebody has put it? Yes. Ajay Prakash has put it biological oxygen demand. Ajay, there's a slight correction. It is not biological, it is biochemical. Biochemical oxygen demand. Biochemical. Okay. Not biological. Okay. Biochemical oxygen demand means when there is some biological matter, it has to get oxidized, it has to get decomposed. When some biological matter or some biochemical matter is available in the water, it has to be oxidized. Water is having oxygen. That oxygen is called dissolved oxygen. That is what the fishes are breathing. Dissolved oxygen is there in water, but very less, very, very less. The dissolved oxygen content in our normal water may be 5 to 7 milligram per liter. Above 13 to 14 milligram per liter is very, very rare. It's difficult to have. If it is polluted water, this dissolved oxygen level is still very less. For example, many of the freshwater fish needs above 5 milligram per liter dissolved oxygen in water to live. Most common river fishes need more oxygen content in water. But there are the varieties which are deep water fishes or mud fishes. The best example is that African mushy. Have you heard it? African mushy is a species which can live with very less water, very less oxygen in water. It can survive even at 2 milligram per liter or 1 milligram per liter oxygen content in water. In my area, there is a fish which we call karati in the South Travancore area. There is a fish called karati. I don't know what is its. I think its name is mackerel or something. I'm not sure. I think it is mackerel in English. Okay, that fish, can survive in very low oxygen level in water, even 1 or 2 milligram per liter. But normally, freshwater fish need 5 to 6 milligram per liter. So by the death of some varieties of freshwater fish, the water will indicate that the oxygen content in the water is less. Oxygen content is below zero means the water is a dead water. Dead water means most of the organisms which need oxygen cannot survive in the water. If the water content is below 0 milligram per liter, that means there is oxygen demand in the water. Water needs oxygen. And especially if some biochemical matter is present in the water will be needing oxygen to decompose or dissociate that material. Then it is called BOD. So if a water is having BOD, it cannot have DO. Both cannot exist together. Dissolved oxygen is there when BOD is not there. If dissolved oxygen is totally consumed up, we have oxygen demand. That is called oxygen is needed by the water. Oxygen demand are two in nature. One is biochemical oxygen demand and another is chemical oxygen demand. Say, for example, you are putting some chlorine into water. The chlorine needs oxygen. To become hypochlorous solution, it needs oxygen. So it will take up all the dissolved oxygen in water. And even then the chlorine is remaining, it demands oxygen. So it is a chemical oxygen demand. You take another case, a biological matter is deteriorating in the, say, a rotten fish or a rotten animal is there in the water. The entire oxygen in the water will be consumed by the organic material to disintegrate. But after the oxygen is over, it again needs oxygen. Then only it can because disintegration is basically oxidation. Any material is disintegrating means it is oxidizing. For example, chlorine becomes hypochlorous is oxidation. Iron becomes ferrous compound is oxidation. Silver becomes silver oxide is oxidation. So oxidation is the process by which biological materials decompose, and for that we need oxygen, and that is called BOD. Because why I am telling this much detail is once in a PSC examination, I asked a candidate, the dissolved oxygen level in a water is 7 milligram per liter. So how much is the BOD in that water? He was saying a huge number. I understood immediately that he doesn't have the concept of BOD. BOD cannot be present if dissolved oxygen is there. BOD is absent in water with oxygen content. The moment oxygen content is vanishing by disintegration of some materials, BOD will start developing. Or simply saying, a water with BOD content is not good for drinking. In standards and all, we say BOD up to 2 milligram per liter is permitted. That is only theoretically. Practically, BOD is not good for drinking water. And that is why the hue and cry came when I reported that the BOD level in the Guruvayur temple water was very high. BOD level is exact value, I don't remember right now. It is there in the internet, I think, that report which I have given. So if the BOD level is very high, it indicates that the water is highly polluted. It's not good for drinking. And that too, when a very sacred temple water, which is used for making temple food and all, temple archana and all, if that water is polluted, what will be the public reaction? That is what happened then. So what I'm saying is, if dissolved oxygen is there in the water, it is good water. If dissolved oxygen is absent and if BOD is present in the water, it is a very contaminated water, either by biological material or by biochemical material. So it's not advisable. So we will be closing the discussion by seeing the full slide which is presented, this one. This can happen, this pollution can happen also by gases like ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, etc., which they also will consume the oxygen in water. And that leads to ultimately what is called hypoxia. Hypo means below requirement, that is hypo. For example, you will have hypoglycemia and hyperglycemia. Hypoglycemia means sugar level is very less. Hyperglycemia means sugar level is very high. I am a person always having hyperglycemia. My sugar level is always above what is required. But there are people having hypoglycemia, means their sugar level is always below the required level. They'll feel very dull. They'll be less energetic like that. Okay. So hypoxia means absence of sufficient oxygen in water. So what is the outcome of hypoxia? The hypoxia will cause the fish to die, the water plants or the aquatic plants to die, because the aquatic plants, the fish, etc., take oxygen from water. So hypoxia means absence of oxygen in water, which leads to the death of living organisms in water. So hypoxia is not advisable. If hypoxia continues for so many years, the water will become dead water. You know, you have heard the name of Dead Sea. In Dead Sea, no plant, no fish will grow because Dead Sea has got only dead water. Okay, dead water means hypoxia is always there. So with this, I stop the discussion now. We are having another class again at 2 o'clock. We'll get back there. I think in between, have you got any class? I'm not sure. Okay, we'll get back at 2 o'clock. Okay then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.